Good morning, Internet. I'm so happy to be with you this morning and with our bully community. Um, it is our third episode for the Bully Assure YouTube podcast, and we are so excited to do this and then reach out to our community. And we've got some amazing guests planned for the future episodes. So please support our channel and be on the lookout. We've already got the next one lined up, and yeah, it's going to be a really cool episode. Today is about just pulling back the curtain a little bit, right? From where we started. I think we wanted to just give you a little bit of insight. And of course, as you know, I'm Theo, and I've been in the background for the past 10 years with the evolution of ABFSA into Bully Assure. And even now to where we are today, I've been a little bit more involved. But I've been part of this long decade-long journey, so I have a bit of insight. I've seen the pains, I've seen the successes, and I really understand why Jenny is doing what she's doing, right? And the amazing team that she has with her. And we see the passion, we share the passion, with the team that we have. And it's amazing to see the passion, especially in the phase where we are now and we are implementing so many new things. It's just incredible to see how people are getting on board with this plan, right? And it's because I think the passion is real, and we share that goal, and it's not artificial, right? It's organic, it's there, it's real, it's great to see. So we love it. Today, the episode today is about pulling back the curtain a bit. Um, I think it's great to connect with our community, and sometimes the best way to do that is, to connect not just through American Bullies, but connect on a human level. Just take one layer back, right? So that we understand, or so that you get insight rather to who we really are. So I think the first question really is that why is Jenny doing this? And I'm saying this today. Oh, and I'm sharing today because today is just me. And Jenny is very protective about how it all started, because it's a personal journey. But she went through it, I think, a difficult time back in 2015. And when she got acquainted with the American Bullies, immediately it changed her, like immediately. And the impact was amazing, to be honest. At one stage, when I knew she had a bad day, I would say to her, no, 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 go to the American Bullies, go get your fix for the day, So, and I see that still today, when she's out and about, among the community and among this amazing breed. She changes. She's just in her element, She just really excels, and the joy comes out. So that's fantastic to see. And I think that's part of the reason why even this past 10 years has been really difficult sometimes. Specifically for her in the registry. But I think there are community members and of course the breed itself that really sustained her and really given her the strength to continue to do what she really loves to do. So this is not for her. It's never been about money. It's not even close. That's why she's not asking when she's hosting shows and she's providing services. She's not asking exorbitant fees or anything like that. She's trying to always manage expenses, and her time she's put into this with the community out there, and that is a clear indication that she's doing it for the right reason. She's doing it for the breed, but she's doing it for the community as well. So I think that's something that I've seen uh, consistently over the last decade. Um, I think it's also important, maybe one other thing connected to that is that the vision was always about how do we get this breed into the wider community, into society. How do we do that with certainty? How do we do that, um, giving our community the advantage of new American Bully owners, but also how do we make sure that the new owners are getting what they're supposed to get? And I think this is where Bully Assure, fundamentally, the concept of Bully Assure arose. I would say the first 5 years, you would have seen that. I mean, Rinal and Steven, what they did was amazing because they started something that was never done before, right? So, in that first 5 years, they went through a huge amount of learning, and it's trial and error sometimes, and you're trying to do your best. You might apply your experiences, which they've had with dog breeding in the past, but when you encounter the American Bully and knowing that it's a developing breed, there are certain things that you have to factor in. It's not like an established breed from FCI, right? So any established purebred dog, you know what you're getting and you know how to breed with that. With the American Bullies, it is becoming more and more established, more certain, and that's what you see globally. But in that first 5 years in South Africa, most definitely they went through a huge learning curve. There's no doubt about it, right? But I think the first 5 years was a massive learning curve, and the last 5 years was really about we really love this breed. We think it's absolutely amazing, and I mean I've seen Runel take some American bullies to old age homes, for therapy. And it's amazing to see how people, our senior citizens, not old people, sorry, our senior citizens, how they interact with the American bullies. And that's just incredible to see. Um, so for us, the last 5 years was really more about how do we make sure we are compliant to South Africa's laws. How do we ensure that when we do grow this into a bigger community, how do we ensure that the bigger community gets the best out of the American bullies, right? And so the last 5 years, when we started really getting into Bully Assure and getting into the deeper things of Bully Assure, the DNA testing, um, and a lot of the compliances that we had to understand, right, and to implement. It was really the last 5 years was more about that. And I think it's important to understand we've always been a registered company, and it's important. The distinction is really important. The distinction is that we've never traded in our personal name, because running a registry simply implies that you have to be registered with the Companies Act because you're not, it wasn't Jenny's Registry Services. It was ABFS and then, Bully Assure. Um, it was really impossible to just trade in your personal name. You had to be fully compliant from the start. Otherwise, you might be, from a SARS point of view, you might be registered as a person, um, but then you have to trade in your personal name. You are not allowed to trade in another brand, right? So, both from the Companies Act, that was not allowed, and also most certainly from the Consumer Protection Act, it wasn't allowed. So we had to make sure from the start that we are fully compliant. We never wanted to run into a situation where we are offering services and a non-compliance, it's breaking down the service that we offer. Secondly, I think when we really started looking at getting this breed across the line, and what I mean by that is getting this breed recognized in South Africa according to the government, right? Not according to FCI, because we've reached out to the FCI about 5 years ago, maybe even longer, 6 years ago, and at that stage, we've had conversations with some of the senior people and trying to understand how do we do this. We were told categorically that the breed had to show 40 years of lineage, of not development lineage, but established lineage. And so, of course, we knew that was still a way off. At the time we reached out to them, I think we were globally sitting at probably 15 years of established lineage. Even though the American bullies the development started in the 1980s, it was clear that according to FCI, this is going to take a while. And that for that reason also, when we reached out to KUSA in 2018, even prior to FCI, it was the same thing, right? But they also categorically told us, but you guys don't comply to the law as it pertains to ear cropping. So there's no way we can onboard, even as a developing breed, we can onboard this thing. Anyway, I think so. What I'm saying is that we've always wanted to make sure that we are compliant. The vision is to get this breed recognized, and for that you have to follow the law. And it's the same thing when the NSPCA reached out to us. We didn't reach out to them, right? But when they reached out to us in, I think this was 2021 first, and then I think we've signed the MOA with them in 2022. We did that for a specific reason. We wanted to show the government that we want to be compliant, that we want to continue our compliance, and that we will cooperate. Because that's the only way we're going to get this breed recognized in South Africa. You're not going to do this by being a standalone registry somewhere in the corner, right? And then think the government's going to listen to anything you have to say. If you do not show the steps of wanting to be compliant, ultimately they won't really even consider it. And also our compliance, especially with legislation now and the new legislation with regards to the importation of live stock and semen. We never wanted to just be compliant for the sake of importation and exports, right? It was always, although that's an important part, but especially for future bloodlines. But the point is really that we wanted to do that to be compliant, to get the breed formally recognized, because we believe in the breed. We love the breed, right? That's why we're doing this. So it's important that when we signed that MOA with the NSPCA, it was another step of being compliant. A lot of people were not happy with that. I think Jenny lost some good clients, and it's a pity. But we stayed the course. We said, look, we know we're going to take a bit of a knock here now, but ultimately our aim is to educate and encourage the community to come along on this journey, because it's in all of our interest to get this breed across the line. It's not just one breeder, it's not just one owner, it's not just us. It's really collectively all our interest to get this breed across the line. And that's why we've stayed the course in terms of compliance. We've in the recent time implemented additional measures, which we will share in due course. We've got some fantastic announcements coming up shortly. But it's all to do with getting this breed recognized. That's really what we've been doing all along. And I think it's important. We do not believe the industry need pop-up registries. Not at all, not even close. We also don't believe the registry need a fragmented ecosystem or a fragmented, let's call it rather, a fragmented governance system. And the reason why I'm saying that is because when we start fragmenting, we lose the ability to ensure the breed's fidelity. And that's why we call it BullAssure Fidelity, because it's about the fidelity of the breed, right? And if we want to take this across the line and really get the rest of the community in South Africa to start enjoying this breed more like we do, I think it's important to note that, we have to take the right steps. There's no other way. We have to take the right steps. From that perspective, I think it's it's important that we unite the breeders and the kennels, and that we unite as a community, and that we unite behind the vision and the goal for the breed, right? That's ultimately, I think, the best we can do. I know some kennels are businesses, but I think if you look at what BullAssure is doing, and you're a kennel that's a substantial kennel and a substantial contributor to the community, right? You would recognize that you inevitably have to invest quite a lot of money to build up your bloodlines and to get your breed stock established and get a strong breed stock. And why wouldn't you want something that's more, regulated and more certain? Excuse me. Why wouldn't you want that? It makes a lot of business sense, right? To do that. And I think this is what we want to do to ultimately achieve as well, is to create that sustainability in the industry. And just coincidentally, we've been registering American bullies in Mozambique, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia. So we throughout Southern Africa, and we've been throughout Southern Africa for years, right? That's why sometimes at our shows, people from Botswana or Zimbabwe will come and grace us with their presence, and we just really, we think that's great. That's really fantastic. But yeah, I think it's important to understand the journey that we've been through, and why we do that. I think it's also important that you understand why we are driving compliance so much, why we want to be compliant, why do we want to create this framework for the American bullies to thrive within, right? And then give support to the community. And we're always trying to improve that, right? I think also if we think about the road ahead, the bully game is going to change, right? I have no doubt the bully game will change. And I'm not talking about what's happening with independent events that's been hosted. I think that's great. People can, of course, it's independent, and they will do their bit for hosting good events. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think the bully game will change in the near future because it has to, firstly, but also we see that it's at the right time now. The interaction that we've had with the government so far, we've had some correspondence and formal letters, and discussions. And I think it's clear to us the way to proceed now, and we've been implementing that for the last, I would say, 6 months now, 6, 7 months. We've been really working hard at implementing those things, and we're making some very good progress. And I think that's part of the change that's needed. And I think once we share those updates, you'll be surprised, but you'll also, I think, be really happy about it, because ultimately these things that we are working on now, it's really specifically to give some impetus, some renewed impetus into the American bully community, but also help grow it, help extend it, help getting it into other areas that it's not been before. And that's what we're all about now. Um, I would also just say, in sort of closing remarks, we've held the view that, and I mean, you've seen this with the first episode when we had a discussion with Ronel and Stephen Rogers, the founders of the American Bullies in South Africa. The subsequent discussion with Jenny we had in episode 2. And just to reiterate, for us as a community, and for those of you who are kennels and breeders, it's important to understand that we have to ensure the fidelity of the breed. We have to ensure the quality of the breed. Some people might create some subsets of bullies, and those might be considered in some way a designer version of an American bully. But I think fundamentally we have to be true to the breed standards of the American bully. We have to protect the breed standards. We have to implement the breed standards as a core principle. That's what's going to get the American bullies the proper full recognition that we are working towards. If we dilute the breed standards, if we, and excuse the term, bastardize the breed standards, and trying to pull that into the core of the breed standard, then we will just make more, we'll break down what we're working on. So I think it's important, it's a very important theme that we protect our investment, we protect the American bullies, and we do that by really protecting how we breed and make sure that we can differentiate between what is really American bully and what is a designer version of American bully. And we are working on that. So we've got various committees, and one of our committees are looking at what to do with what we call designer versions of the core American bullies. And just to reiterate, the core American bullies are, of course, standards, XLs, and pockets, and in the US also classics, but we don't really have classics in South Africa. And that's really the core of the American bullies. And I think that's what we got to figure out together with the community. What's the best way to give the right respect for the American bullies, the core of the American bullies, but also how do we handle the upcoming, let's call it, designer versions of the American bullies, and is there a place for it? So we don't have an answer. We're working on an answer. We don't want to rush this. I think it's an important enough topic for us internally, and of course for the community, that we do the right thing going forward. This is not a short-term thing. This is not about just registering dogs. It's about, although we do register the other versions, the micros and the exotics, and we have them in our shows. It is of course something that we have to figure out what is the way forward so that we can protect the core breed standard, as well as looking at what's happening elsewhere. But it's not, like I've said, we've had many sessions on this. There's no easy answer. Um, and we might also be somewhat influenced in the near future with some of the development, especially of the government, because we have to define a very specific breed standard. It can't be loose. It can't have all sorts of variations and all sorts of alterations and things like that. So you've got to be very clear about the breed standard, and we've been working on that. And so I think it's important for the community to understand why we're doing this again. I'm rolling back the curtain to explain to you why are we considering what to do with American bullies, or sorry, rather the micro bullies and the exotic bullies. We need to figure out how to deal with that, still support the people that have those and breed those, but we've got to have the answers of how to deal with those, right? And I think ultimately that also just illustrates the point that we are working extremely hard to create something that's really long term for the community uh, and for the breed itself. So we're trying to figure tough decisions out, tough things out, and we're doing that to figure it out in a way that's sustainable, but also that is fair. Just one last thing maybe on ear cropping. And when we signed the MOA with the NSPCA, it was of course to do with animal welfare, right? And we've also taken the stance on ear cropping because the law in South Africa is very clear on ear cropping. You might not agree with it. You might not agree with the science 100%. Um, but the agreed and official consensus of the Veterinary Council in South Africa is clear that no surgery or surgical procedure might be um, uh, not exercised, might be done, excuse me, I don't have the right word now, but might not be done by someone who is not a registered veterinary professional. And they, according to the Veterinary Council, they are not allowed, it's banned to do ear cropping or tail docking. So from a law perspective, that's the law of the land. And for us to be compliant and to get this breed across the road, that is something that has to be, and it is in our constitution as an entity. There's no way around this. You can't start a formal entity and ask the government to approve you if you are not willing to comply with their laws. It's mandatory. It's not optional. So we have to do it. Um, but also, I think and I've heard this argument in the past that, if you are able to do circumcision on human children, why can't you just, do a similar procedure which is not as painful on dogs? But there's a very big difference, because circumcision is a religious activity which is enshrined in our constitution. It's protected by the constitution to exercise your religious freedom and your customs connected to that. Whereas with ear cropping, it's not enshrined in the Constitution, and it shouldn't be either, because it's fundamentally a cosmetic procedure. It's not a medical procedure that's a requirement. It's a real need for the breed because it's not. In America, they don't ban ear cropping, and of course that's their decision. The science is quite different. But in America, most of the ear cropping is also done by professionals because they are allowed to do it. In South Africa, the vets are not allowed to do it, and as an individual, you're not allowed to do it, right? So. And it's a hot topic. I know we've had many conversations about this, quite a lot, right? And but understand why we're doing it. It's important for you to see just behind the veil why did we go this route? Because it's really about the road to get the American bully across the line as an established breed, and for that we have to comply to the law, right? It's a compliance thing. So. Yeah, please. I mean, if you have any questions on this and you want to reach out to us, please talk to us about it, right? We're here to support you. We've done a lot of research. We spent a huge amount of time on this on these things in terms of compliance and why we do these things. So it's important so that our community understand exactly why the decisions were taken. Um, and I think we have to now the next phase of us going forward, we have to think about how do we, toe the line, as it were, to make sure we get the breed across the line. And ultimately, that would be fantastic. That's really the first prize for the breed. We don't want it to be in the shadows. And with the new legislation, with the importation of semen and livestock, in any case, what's going to happen is that people will either import stuff from America, bloodlines from America, falsely, and if they're caught, they're going to be in real trouble. Or we're going to have we're going to have trouble with the bloodlines going forward. I do think we have a lot of bloodlines, and we still do have, I think, opportunities to strengthen or to build out the bloodlines. But I think what we are currently doing, and we hope we can succeed with that quite soon, is to lobby the government for an interim order that allows us to continue to import, given that we've embarked on the formal process with them. So I think that's sort of the angle that we're trying to take here, so that we can, because the road of getting this dog over this dog breed over the line will be a long road. There's no short period here, but in the interim, we want to see what legal options we have to get the additional bloodlines into South Africa and why that's important. And we're busy with the government with that. But it has to be compliant. I think this is the ultimate thing for us. We have to stay compliant. And as a registry that's been around the longest, we have to protect the work that Rinel and Stephen started, and the rest of the community built over the last decade, and even ourselves, the amount of work that we've put into this over the last decade. We have to protect that. And that means we have to be compliant. Anyway, enough of compliance. I think at the end of the day, we really owe it to ourselves. We really owe it to the founders. I think in a way, we owe it to people like Jenny, but we ultimately owe it to the breed as well. And I think if we focus on that, we'll get this breed over the line, and we'll spend many happy hours with them and together and on shows and things like that. So it will be really a lot of fun. And we look forward to the next shows. As you know, it will be an ABKC show. We're really excited about it. It's going to be fantastic. There will be, a proper ABKC judge. There will be an ABKC representative coming along. And for us, that's just a fantastic achievement. It's a great milestone. It's something to give to the community and let them experience. And I think just be on the watch out. Jenny is arranging what we label it a pre-ABKC show, but we'll give it another name. And the reason for that is just to prepare people. It will be a proper show. It will be a sanctioned show by Bully Assure, and it would also give you points for participating in this pre-ABKC show. But fundamentally, it's about giving you the pointers, giving you the insights, because we've been studying the ABKC rules and standards, And our judges are actually coincidentally writing an ABKC standards, breed standards exam today. So that's really fantastic. We wish them well. And yeah, so they will have a lot of tips. And our head judge, which we will announce soon, we'll also spend a lot of time with people in the ring during this pre-ABKC show so that you can understand, what to expect when you do a proper ABKC show. And I think also, please dress nicely. We want to impress, we want to impress ABKC. So dress out properly, look at some online videos, see how the people do it. Let's practice that in the pre-ABKC show, and then of course in the full ABKC show, let's just knock them socks off, right? But fantastic, nice. It was really nice having this time with you guys, and we're here to support. We're here to help. Jenny's got an amazing gift with working with people and just showing them, who she really is and how she supports people. She's built amazing connections and relationships over the last decade. So please reach out to us, talk to us. If we can help you, we will help you. And come along on this journey. It's an amazing journey and it's an important journey. So we look forward to everyone's support.